All right, welcome to the Ironwood Gym. All right, first off, if you like what you've been seeing on this channel, please hit that like button. If you like this video, when you get to the end of it, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you've been seeing here so you can see more of what I've been putting out. And most importantly, please share it with the lifters and the coaches in your life or the fitness enthusiasts that you think could get something out of these videos. Quite a few videos out now, so please check them all out and share them with the others so they can check them out as well. Again, this is an educational, or it's meant to be educational. Maybe it's part of your hobby or interest, so it's entertainment for you, but these videos I am trying to help educate people about the strength world. So today I'm going to talk about how I've done it. I'm going to talk about how I have managed low back issues as a coach, or managed them with myself as a lifter, and kind of what I did and the plan that I took. So first off, if you're working with an athlete or you yourself have a low back issue, I'm not just saying, oh, my low back's a little stiff today. I'm talking about an actual injury that you have to work with. Step number one is go see an athletic trainer or a physical therapist or a doctor if the case warrants it. All right, that's step one. Let the experts do their job. All right. What I'm going to talk about, what I did after the visits with the athletic trainer or the physical therapist, is working with them post initial phases of rehab. So I'm actually going to be referring to athletes that were completely taken out of training for a period of time, whether that had been just a few days, maybe a few weeks, or in the worst cases, maybe longer. But this is how I would have handled those when they came back. Now, when they come back, they are not 100% ready to train, hopefully, to train and compete. The reason I say hopefully is because there are, unfortunately, athletic trainers and physical therapists out there who are completely overbearing and want to keep the athletes all the way until it's time for them to be 100% ready to return. That is the wrong approach. You need to get them back with the strength coach, athletic trainers and physical therapists, so they can resume training as soon as possible. That doesn't mean there's not reasons for you to pull them out. There absolutely are. But you need to get them back in and working, and then give instruction to the strength coaches what they can and cannot do. So, and strength coaches follow those instructions. But once they give you more of a green light, then, okay, this is how I would go about things, okay? So we've already established step one is go to the athletic trainer, go to the doctor, go to the physical therapist. So step two is, what are we going to do when they come back to training? Don't, unless they kept them out for way too long and said they're 100% when they come back, and they're probably not. Don't just throw them right back into all this hard training for their low back. That is counterproductive. We need to establish some new baselines or a new ground floor to work from. And what I'm saying is we need to give more attention to the abs, the obliques, and the glutes. Okay, so that's what we need to focus on, not the low back. Okay, abs, obliques, and glutes. And typically, I would get the athletes back fairly soon. Okay, not extended period. I had some that would keep them out extended periods of time, but most of the times they would bring them back fairly soon, say that, okay, they're limited, but we need them to start working. So in that case, my first step would be abs only. Okay, abs only, because it doesn't And I'm going to define what I mean by that here in a second. But the reason being is that we don't want to overstress the spine. Okay? We don't want to overstress the muscles surrounding the spine. So we're going to go abs only, because if you do obliques, you're going to be putting more stress on the spine. Just natural tendency is that you're going to be getting more, the spine is going to be starting to utilize more. So we're going to start with the abs. Glutes. Okay, that's another thing that we want to focus on early on, but a lot of athletes don't know how to separate their glutes from their low back. So they're trying to squeeze their glutes, but they're squeezing the muscles around their low back at the same time, causing them to go into extension, spinal extension, which is not what we want. Okay? We actually want to go to a protocol of no flexion or extension. We want neutral. We don't want to be having a lot of flexion. That would be your sit-up, okay, or your crunch. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do exercises, this would be more the low back or even the glutes, where you're trying to extend. We want neutral. Focus on exercises such as the front bridge, also known as the front plank. Or if they can do it correctly, leg raise holds, where they're laying on the ground, they're holding their feet 6 to 12 inches off the ground. But if their low back, in either case, starts to extend, stop the movement, okay? You need to teach them to brace their abs, to control their abs, lock their abs down, so that there is no spinal movement, including spinal extension, because if they're extending their spine, it's probably because their abs are starting to fail from fatigue and they can no longer hold the position. Therefore, their spine starts to arch or starts to extend. Okay, we want to avoid that. As they get better with that, with those front planks, front bridges, leg raise holds, or any other exercise, low intensity exercise, okay, at this point, as they get better at that, we can increase the intensity by either finding exercises that are more difficult or by adding weight to those exercises. If the increased difficulty puts them into spinal extension, you stop the exercise or go back down. It's okay. Take your time on this. Okay, the tissues around the spine that protect the discs, I believe, or the disc itself, once it's damaged, to my knowledge, and this is going back a ways, takes about a year for it to heal. But every time you re-damage it, it takes a year from that point. So we can keep this going on and on and on, which I have seen happen, or we can play it safe, take our time helping to heal this injury by taking our time progressing in intensity and in more difficult movements. Okay, once you have begun to increase the intensity, you should be good to start adding in oblique work or glutes. Okay. Again, stick to static or isometric type movements. Side bridge, that can be difficult on the spine. So if it hurts, either go for shorter periods of time or stop the exercise altogether, okay, until they get to a point where they can do it pain-free. You want them to be able to do it pain-free, but also, and most importantly, 100% correct. So technique, mechanics, even though it's just a holding still position, all their body position should be locked in. All right, if they can't stay locked in, you need to do it for shorter periods of time or find another simpler movement that they can do correctly. You cannot have failure here, or you can't have doing things wrong. You have to get them doing it correctly. Glutes. Start out with a simple glute bridge or hip bridge. Sit up position, pull your feet all the way to your butt, lock your hips, no spinal extension. They need to focus on squeezing their glutes throughout the entire time, and you're going to hold it for time, not reps, time. Static movement, isometric movement. but focus on squeezing the glutes the entire time. And then, as they get better at it, have them put a weight directly onto their hips. Just take a plate, 10-pound plate, put it directly on their hips. Okay? Again, focus on engaging the glutes. If you see spinal extension, stop the exercise. Okay? We need to spare the spine. All right? Focus on the muscles that are going to provide stability and change movement patterns or alter movement patterns in a way that will be beneficial for the spine. We'll work the low back later. Okay? We need to focus on healing and correcting first. Okay, once you have the glutes to where you can do that glute bridge, you've added weight, you've doing it correctly, they're focusing on the glutes, they're not working their low back, they're not going into spinal extension, they can hold it for 30 seconds, they can hold it for 30 seconds with weight, now start to do a single leg hip bridge. Okay, so we're going to increase the difficulty of the exercise where they have pulled one foot into their butt, the other leg is up in the air, but their knees are at the same height. Leg extended, knees, upper legs at the same angle, knees at the same height, but have that leg that's off, or the foot that's off the ground up in the air and knee locked. Once they get good at that on both legs, now you can start to add in reps, whether it be on the glute, regular glute bridge with both legs or the single leg. Okay, but we need to get our glutes firing and working so they will start to utilize their glutes in the movements of their sport to help them stay in correct position. Because most of the injuries that I've seen low back, as far as athletics went, did not happen in the weight room. They happened on the field. And some of these are in sports where you're like, why are they hurting their low backs? Because they don't utilize their glutes or their hips. They utilize their low back and obliques for everything. So we need to get them utilizing their obliques for stabilizing, their abs for stabilizing, and their glutes for help for getting them to utilize the correct movements or muscle groups when they're performing their sport. And along with that, and this is kind of a side topic because this wouldn't be part of their rehab, it's part of their general training, but strengthen their legs and their hips. You wouldn't believe how many athletes I've seen just go out to their field. They field hockey was notorious for it. They're just bent over, rounded backs. They're doing straight legs, just bending over at the low back instead of bending their legs, keeping their hips down, and utilizing leg and glute strength instead of being lazy and bending over at their low back. But this is a strength issue. It's not it's weak legs, weak hips, which makes it easier for them to bend over because having to keep their legs bent, their knees bent, is actually more work when their legs are so weak. So anyway, back to the kind of reintroduction to training. So abs first, obliques, glutes second. Okay, focus on isometric, static type exercises held for time. As they get better at them, start adding either weight or changing the movement to a more difficult movement. But we want to avoid flexion and extension. Okay, we want to spare the spine. We don't want to see, even if it's an ab exercise, even if it's a low back exercise, we don't want that flexion extension type of work for quite a while, maybe up to a year, where they're going to focus on these isometric type exercises. This will go a long way in promoting full return without the possibility or while decreasing the chance of, it's always going to be possible, but decreasing the chances of re-injury. Again, spare the spine. Cut the low back workout. The low back is getting worked, trust me. If they're able to squat, if they're able to deadlift, or when they start being able to do those, they will get more work through the low back. It's going to get work. Don't overdo it. And I wouldn't work the low back at all to heal the low back. All right, let the athletic trainer take care of that sort of thing. You focus on the abs, the obliques, the glutes. Focus on that. Avoid flexion and extension, and you'll be setting your athletes up for success as far as coming back from these injuries and decreasing the chances of reoccurring injuries. That is it for today. Let me know if you got any questions, comments, feedback. Comment down below on this. And if so, that'll be it. As always, stay in the pursuit of strength.